But of course, one of the other tools that the politicians have is the great storybook that is Goldilocks and the 3 new COVID rules. This is where, in Victoria, you get a scenario where 4Ks, that's okay. 6Ks will kill you, but 5Ks is just right. Places like in Queensland, where despite the fact that lots of things have gone for the better in Queensland, next year, when kids are dropped off for the first day at school, kids without coronavirus will be dropped off by parents who don't have coronavirus at the gate, shoved in to meet other kids who don't have coronavirus and teachers who don't have coronavirus, all because they're keeping us safe. Well, today, a little bit of sanity made its way back towards Victoria, which is the mandatory mask rule, which doesn't really matter if you're walking around in a park, and doesn't really matter if you're working in an office block. But as we've got calls on Better Call Paul, there are people who work on building sites. These people who work on building sites had to wear a mask, including when it was a plus 30-degree day. Well, now that rule is going to disappear. But to give you an idea of the Goldilocks approach, too hot, too cold, just right, here's how mask rules will work in Victoria from midnight tonight, as explained by the chairman.
If you go to Bunnings and you're in the store, you wear your mask. If you're in the car park, you don't have to wear your mask. But if you're queuing up for a sausage and you're with other people and you are simply not keeping your distance, you're part of a crowd, you need to put the mask on. Carry the mask with you. Common sense drives this.
Oh yeah, common sense. Common sense drives this. And as I mentioned before in Queensland, just last week, more than 50,000 people were able to watch the Maroons win the 3rd game of State of Origin. Huge crowd, apparently the biggest in the world that had seen a sporting event since COVID had begun. The weekend before, people in the Valley were able to dance for the first time in months, and people were apparently almost in tears. Yet, school leavers had not been allowed to have the official schoolies, but still, the Gold Coast still exists and they're still able to go to the Gold Coast. But guess what they're going to do? Deploy 200 extra police, not to police public drunkenness, not to police drug use, but instead to, among other things, police coronavirus social distancing. Oh yeah, and by the way, the Keeping You Safe team, Dr. Jeanette Young, who thought that Canberra was a hot spot because it's still geographically in the middle of New South Wales, despite the fact they hadn't had cases for 60 days. This was used as a justification to keep people apart for a Queenslander's funeral. Yes, this stuff still matters. She says you should have a mask ready at all times just in case there's an Adelaide-style breakout. The irony of suggesting an Adelaide-style breakout, which of course could have been handled if it was the same size and the same way. Was it not even half the size of Crossroads in New South Wales, where contact tracing would have been able to get on top of it and put it out. Where the special Radelaide stream didn't exist, they're still saying in Queensland, make sure you have a mask.